Homicide 1909. The case of 32-year-old Luke Brannan. Luke Brannan was convicted of the murder of 27-year-old Florence Staples and sentenced to death but reprieved. He shot her on the 7th of November 1909 in Great Dover Street, Borough, London, at the junction with Black Horse Court during dense fog in the early morning. Luke Brannan had been in the Navy, entering service in 1901. However, he was later discharged on the 17th of September 1908 for being unfit for service after 2 attacks brought on by excessive drinking. However, when he was discharged, his conduct and character were described as having been very good. It was said that up until that point, he had been teetotal, except on furlough, which is borne out by the fact that he had saved some £33, which was stated officially as being about as much as he could have possibly saved during his service. Florence Staples had lived with a man, but 2 years earlier had quarrelled with him and had gone off and married another man. However, she soon left him and went back to the first man. When she was murdered, the man that she had been living with, who was a scene shifter, was on tour, and Florence Staples had been living the life of a prostitute in Eltham Street, Borough. Luke Brannan first went on the drink in June 1908 and drew his savings from the Naval Bank. On the 15th of June 1908, he was taken to the Naval Hospital in Chatham from the Union, where he had been admitted as insane. He had been suffering from alcoholism and was later discharged as cured on the 2nd of July 1908. After his discharge, Luke Brannan met Florence Staples, and he stayed with her on and off until the 21st of July 1908 for 3 days at a time. Then, on the 21st of July 1908, he was admitted to the hospital again, suffering from alcoholism and delusions, and gave the hospital the name of Miss F. Jukes, an alias for Florence Staples, as one of his friends. He was then discharged from the Navy on the 17th of September 1908 for neurasthenia, being unfit for service. At that point he was given all the money that he had left in his bank, £1, 8 shillings and 10 pence. He spent 3 days with Florence Staples, but she then told him that he must go, as he had no more money. Later on the 4th of October 1908 he drew £7 by way of a gratuity, and he spent the night of the 8th of October 1908 with her. Between the 4th of October and the 18th of October 1908, Luke Brannan stayed at a lodging house where he was drunk every night, and on the 18th of October 1908 he was arrested for discharging his revolver in the street and got a fine of 10 shillings or 14 days hard labour. He served 14 days hard labour and was released from Wandsworth Prison on the 30th of October 1908. When he was released, his revolver and 6 shillings 7 pence were returned to him, but not his cartridges. Then, on the 30th of October, he bought 14 cartridges. On the 14th of November 1908 he called on Florence Staples, but she was out. He then called on her at 6 p.m. on the 6th of November 1908, but Florence Staples would have little to do with him. He then went off, but came back 20 minutes later, and it was thought that he then stayed with her until 12:45 a.m. on the 7th of November 1908. He was described as sober, but sullen, and to have probably been suffering from the effects of past drinking. There were several other prostitutes in the house, and at about 12:30 a.m. one of them brought in 2 men, whilst Luke Brannan was there, and they fetched Florence Staples to go and have connection with one of them in another room, while the other prostitute went to another room with the other man. After, Luke Brannan, Florence Staples and the other prostitute went out, and as Florence Staples was parting with Luke Brannan, the other prostitute said to him, "If you have a couple of shillings, you may come, otherwise keep away." Florence Staples then left Luke Brannan, but after she had gone a few yards, Luke Brannan shot her in the back, about 6 inches below the neck. It was a foggy night, and Luke Brannan then made off. Florence Staples died almost immediately. Luke Brannan gave himself up the following morning at Highgate Police Station. He had thrown his revolver and cartridges away near the scene of the murder. He said, "I did not know she was dead, or I should have done it on myself." He said that he had read about her death in the newspaper. His defence said that he only meant to frighten Florence Staples by firing on the ground, and that the bullet must have struck her by accident, which was presumably accounted for by his careless handling of the revolver or due to the heavy throw-up. At his trial, the jury took the view that Luke Brannan had fired at Florence Staples, intending to do her grievous bodily harm, but to not kill her, and he was found guilty of murder but with a strong recommendation to mercy, which is thought to have also been influenced by Luke Brannan's good character in the Navy. He was sentenced to death but reprieved, and sentenced to penal servitude for life. On the 17th of September 1913, he was certified as insane and sent to Broadmoor, where he later died on the 30th of October 1932 from coronary thrombosis and myocardial degeneration, natural causes,